Welcome to Future Role Model Podcast. I am Natasha Hansen, and this is a podcast that praises the unconventional and redefines what it means to be a role model and a human being. Today I have one of my good friends and amazing comedian, Chris Fairbanks.
I'm a human being.
He is a human being. And you're a very talented impressionist of Paul Ryan as well.
That's why I was thinking maybe I'd do something here. First of all, I didn't want to quit being me and then all of a sudden be someone else. I don't know how people do that.
Yeah.
Without it being visual. All I do is kind of look like him. And then I draw a little widow's peak. And it all started, these Paul Ryan town halls just started as Instagram
things.
Photos. Yeah. And then they were videos, and then someone approached me about doing town halls, and then I was in over my head and it got scary.
Well, the videos, we'll talk about all that because the videos, Chris and I haven't seen each other in, it's probably been close to a year.
Yeah. I think with most people, I'm like, man, I haven't seen that person in a year either. And I'm like, oh yeah, I've been in my house for about a year.
Yeah, years are pretty scary here in LA. Like I know time by hairstyles now.
Yeah.
Like what did my hair look like in 2008? Okay, that happened in 2008.
Hairstyles are your new seasons?
Yeah. Like we don't have other way to tell time in LA. It's hairstyles and like what stuff you're working on.
Yes.
Like that was the year of that really bad web series and bangs.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how we tell time. But Chris, I was telling Paul this before you came to the studio. I have had a talent crush on somebody only twice in my life. The first one was with a guy named Alex Moffat, who's now on SNL.
Yeah, I know.
He was one of the funniest impressionists that I ever saw at Second City back when he was just like doing stuff at Second
you're
City.
From Chicago, comedy-wise, yeah.
And then my second was you when I met you in Los Angeles.
That's the sweetest.
I know, with your busted hand. But Chris was like instantly one of the most funny, unique comedians that I had ever seen when I first moved to LA. And so I just always tried to stay on top of your career because you're just fucking awesome.
I remember when you moved here. I was one of the town halls they were in Minneapolis and Madison and Eau Claire, and then we went to Chicago. And I'd never been to Chicago. I'd never performed there before.
You hadn't.
And it was so cold and scared. That lake. There's a giant lake. It looked like it was boiling.
Yes.
Because it was so wild and it was splashing. There's just a bike path. If you're insane, you could ride your bike around it. And giant waves just crashing on the street.
Yeah.
It was wild.
I can't believe you hadn't been to Chicago before.
No, I know. No one can. I just hadn't yet.
It's the New York of the Midwest. That's what we used to say when we lived there. And then you leave and you're like, it's not fucking New York at all. But it's kind of
New Yorky, yeah.
It's a little New Yorky. But in the summer, that pathway, the lakefront is so nice. Like you can boat and jet ski and it's really welcoming. Like it looks like an ocean, but it's not as daunting.
It was very, please stay away.
But in the winter time, it's like, no joke.
Yeah.
And that was where the winter that I left Chicago to move here, they called it Snowmageddon because
I remember that.
Yeah, we had such a bad. People were driving on the lakefront there. They call it Lakeshore Drive, LSD. So everybody's like, "Oh, I'm on LSD right now. I'm headed to your house." It's like this stupid Chicago thing. But they were like, "Don't drive on Lakeshore. That you're going to get snowed in." And like hundreds of cars got stuck on Lakeshore because they got snowed in because the wind that comes across the lake is just insane.
Wow. Yeah. I was really impressed with it. It was like the weird vortex comes to mind.
So Chris does this character of Paul Ryan, and he has been doing these videos that crack me up. There's not a lot on Instagram that I watch that actually makes me laugh out loud besides ugly babies.
Yeah. So, I go down ugly baby wormholes.
You trump the ugly baby path. So talk to me about the tour. Like, how did that all come about?
even the making the videos, I didn't really sign up for any of it. My manager came over and said, "You look like Paul Ryan. We should do some photos." So right after I had just gotten my hip replaced, which makes me sound old. I'm not that old. I just have bad hips. Get off my back.
And a bad hand, apparently.
Yeah, I broke my hand. Yeah, well,
your bones need work.
Yeah, just anger issues. No, it wasn't from a person. I actually fell skateboarding on my hip because I'm getting back into
skateboarding.
Yeah, and I'm going to a skate-specific physical therapist, and my leg feels great, but I was skating with a bunch of pals in an indoor facility, and I fell on my hip hard, and I was like, oh, I ruined it. And I frustratingly punched my skateboard, and I broke my hand, and my hip was fine. That's how I punched my skateboard like a 15-year-old idiot. Anyway.
Oh, where?
Yeah, but my manager came over when I was recovering, and we did because he has this Time magazine where he's like talking about this article where he's talking about Rage Against the Machine and P90X and all this.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm cool. I'm like you guys, but except...
not. Yeah.
No, in his head, it's just taking away a woman's right to choose and doing terrible things.
Yeah,
with taxes.
Paul Ryan's
He's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Especially if you go back and look at him, around the time he was, forgot that he was Mitt Romney's running mate. That escaped me for long. But going back and watching him and reading Ayn Rand, that author that he looks up to, that's just crazy. It's insane. But it is, a lot of it's just basic Republican. Get yours first and forget about other people.
Right.
Until you have yours, then you can.
Then it's fine.
Yeah.
Then give. But give publicly so everybody knows about it.
Yeah. And so, I'm sorry, I'm getting off. This comic I work with in Portland, Andy Main, said she saw a mock town hall that was just Paul Ryan, like a cardboard cutout of him. So she contacted that political action protest group, whatever you want to call it, and I think they helped with these. I don't know, it was pretty hands off, and her and my manager just made this tour, and they ended up being in sold out venues that I wouldn't get to do with my stand up because people just saw the poster and they're like, I want to see ask fake Paul Ryan questions, and people.
So how did it work? Yeah, did you start with like a speech and then do an open Q&A kind of thing?
The speech was a video, like a campaign video with cornfields, and then it just explodes into disturbed. Ooh, and there's like flames, and it starts very heavy metal-y. I skateboard a little in it on stage, but for the most part, it was just me. People asking questions, or the moderator, Andy, who organized these shows, was the moderator. And she asked me questions, and I had answers. We wrote over the phone because she lives in Portland. That's what was hard, is coming up with a whole hour of new material. And I'm not a political comic as of now. And so coming up with little sections. I talked to a Daily Show guy, and he gave me a bunch of ideas over the phone. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that and that and that. Yeah.
Well, and you're also kind of writing as another character, too. So it's like you have to not only write a new hour, political stuff that you're not used to, and also pretend to be this person.
Yeah, and approach it in a way where I have to show my actual viewpoint. So it had to be a kind of sarcastic Stephen Colbert type performance where it was very wink, wink the whole time. But I got to say terrible things. It was an interesting thing to pull off, and I kept having to say what I actually believe as Chris Fairbanks to pull myself out, especially when we're talking about guns and stuff. There's certain things I just didn't want to
say,
joke about, and so. But fortunately, the real Paul Ryan evades questions and goes back to what he wants to talk about. And then also, he's retired 3 days before my tour. So I had to retool everything, which wasn't that hard because I just made it this down and out. I want to go to Sandals Resort, and I can't wait to be done with this job. Do you want to know what I really think of the Republican Party now that I don't work there anymore? And so that opened it up.
Right. For more play.
Yeah. And
what a cool, what a perfect timing for him to leave office.
Yeah.
Kind of.
It sort of was. It damaged like the future of this we were going to shoot this whole mockumentary about him, but maybe now it will just be him hanging out at home trying to get to know his kids.
Yeah, I think you could have a lot of fun with that. I mean, people still. So I first started learning about. I'm not a very political person. Like I've become more, and I think a lot of people have.
Everyone has
become more.
Children have. Yeah.
Yeah, like babies are like, no. They're coming out of the womb like, no, why in this world am I here? But
Where are my parents? I'd rather this not have happened.
Like sometimes I wonder what I have cared about for so long, because I'm not much of a pop culture junkie.
Sure.
Like I don't watch like E-News and stuff religiously, but I also am not much of a political junkie. And the other day I was trying to think of like, well, what do I like?
I realized I'm a junkie. I'm a drug junkie.
I guess I just like beer and people. Is that like a genre?
It is. Beer and people is my
Is there like things. Beer and people access television?
Because I would social junkie.
I would love to create that.
Yeah.
But one of my best friends, so her and I lived together in college, and she decided she wanted to go into politics at the same time I wanted to go into comedy. So we always thought that was really funny that she was going to move to DC and I was going to move to LA.
Right.
And we went to school in Madison, which is a very liberal city. Madison, Wisconsin, but the rest of Wisconsin is very not liberal.
Right.
Very Republican, even my friends that I still talk to are like, we're socially liberal, but we're fiscally conservative, which I agree with. But but that's what a lot of Republicans say to try and just make it sound like they are cool and hip and young and agree with things they should.
Yeah, it meant something completely different, but I think that's even what Nazis said.
Yeah,
but yeah.
So my friend went into politics, and she worked for the Obama administration for a while, and then when all this shit was happening, she hates Paul Ryan.
Yeah.
So she's the one I knew about Paul Ryan from.
Right.
And then when you started going on the tour, I was like, you have to go. But she doesn't live in the Midwest anymore, but she was telling friends about it. So I hope a lot of my Midwest 1 degree of separation people showed up to your tour.
Tons of people showed up because someone told them, and that never happens with my stand-up.
Right.
And just podcast people came too for my Do You Need a Ride podcast. It was really cool, and Madison was the best show by far. It was so fun.
Where did you play in Madison?
Comedy on State Street.
Oh, you did Comedy on State. Okay. That's like I was just talking about that place last night, but Comedy Club on State is one of my favorite clubs in the country.
I think it's the best. I used to say Acme, but it's been so long since I worked there that Comedy on State Street is my favorite.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, and it's cool because you have Paul's Club next door with the big tree inside.
Oh, yeah. I went last time. I went there. Yeah, I didn't go out this time. This tour was like, go to bed after the show, wake up, drive
somewhere
through
else.
the snow scarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which isn't a fun.
My Minneapolis show it was St. Paul. It got canceled because of 15 inches of blizzarding snow. It was like we had driven from Eau Claire to Chicago, which is kind of a hefty drive in the snow. But I've driven in snow. I'm from Montana. But it just tripled overnight. So.
Yeah.
And it sucks because that show was sold out and they were really excited and they're promoting it. I hated canceling, but
what are you going to do?
I'm not going to die.
Yeah.
If you're driving some direction, there's jackknifed, trucks everywhere, then you kind of don't want to go back the next day.
The seriousness of that kind of snow, like people in LA are such pussies when it comes to weather. Like people canceled. We had wind a couple days ago. Remember the wind?
Yeah.
And people were canceling meetings and like shows and stuff. Like a couple comics I knew that were on a lineup with me like didn't come because they were like, it's so windy today.
Oh, that's so funny.
And it's funny because when I went to school in Minneapolis for 2 years. And I would make the drive from Minneapolis to Madison all the time.
Yeah.
And I dated a guy up in St. Cloud, Minnesota, which is like another 2 hours or whatever it was. So I was in snowstorms constantly and like driving next to where you can't see the road.
I don't miss it.
No, I don't miss it at all.
It works better than a hairstyle as far as making life last longer, because if you're like, this winter, when is it going to end? I've never said that living in Venice Beach. It's just 75 every day, and I'm like, oh shit, it's my birthday again. I'm old. It's just
that came around really quick.
Yeah, but yeah, it was dealing with cars. That's pretty much the main thing. Just dealing with driving in that weather is the worst.
Yeah,
and rushing.
You
to
actually
be
have to
inside.
think. Like, I remember having to concentrate the entire time while driving, like turn off the radio and actually just stare at the road because you're like, you can't do the one-handed thing at all. Otherwise, you're going to fucking die.
Yeah. It's never fun to focus on not dying. Yeah.
No, you don't want that to have to be your main focus. You should just be able to go on living, just coasting through life.
Yeah, I always want not dying being a secondary thought.
I know. I talk about not dying a lot, actually. It's like my favorite thing.
Yeah.
That, like, I talk about it in my stand-up, but like I was podcasting like a year and a half ago and my grandma was on tour with me. And somebody on the other line was like, what is it like in LA? And I was like, well, basically, we're all just trying to not die. Yeah. And they were like, okay, we'll accept that as an answer.
I also like short answers that, stop the conversation.
Yeah.
Trying to not die. Okay, duly noted.
Cool. All right, great.
We're on to something else.
Thanks for your insight.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how long have you been doing stand-up now?
I started in the year 2000.
2000?
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap. Holy crap. Why aren't you Bill Burr yet, Chris?
I don't know.
What the heck?
I'm taking the gradual. I think I didn't start. I took little, leisurely years. I took some leisure
You started
years.
as a baby, though.
I never stopped doing stand-up, but I just am figuring out the work it actually takes. Like, that's why I was just happy I did this show, because in the beginning, or a month ago, I'm like, oh my God, I have these dates and I can't do this. I can't.
Yeah.
And I did. I'm like, oh, okay, I should do this with my stand-up, just intensively write and book, like I just wait for whatever gigs come to me, and I know that you actually work harder than I do. Like, I've just seen other people. I'm like, oh, I should do that. I should reach out to people more. And I just don't.
Work is different to everybody. Like, some people look at me and they're like, oh, you work so hard. And I'm like, yeah, but also, like, I can do a lot of my work in my underwear. So, like, what are we really talking about here?
Right. You always have to remember what the work environment of your parents and most of your friends at home are. And
I grew up farming, so I'm like, that was hard work. Like, what I do, like, sure, it might be hours of labor, but like, it's not like physically taxing on my body.
Unless you're trying to farm in your underwear.
Right. Which we did that too. But that was, that's a story for another time.
Just a big sickle and waist deep corn in your underwear.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we were waist deep in corn a lot, but we would go break into the cornfield at night and do bonfires. So it's true that I probably did husk a lot of corn in my underwear, but not for pay.
Right. Yeah.
Thankfully, otherwise I'd been concerned about who owned the farm.
Just the idea of hanging out in a cornfield scares me because of the movie Children of the Corn.
Yeah. I don't watch any scary movies to do with produce because because it just scares me for my former self.
Deal with produce,
like any of those jack-o'-lantern pumpkin movies.
Sure.
Are there those?
Yeah, there's some
gored horror stories.
I hate gored horror. It's my least favorite.
Children of the Indian Corn.
Any holiday-based
sequel
horror.
The Kwanzaa Nightmare.
That's a classic.
So let's talk about role models that you had growing up. Did you have any?
I did, yeah. I was trying to think of that. It sounds, cliched, but my dad was, both my parents, but my dad specifically was an influence just because he was a painter and I like to draw and paint, and he's funny. He used to do radio, and he wrote a lot of jokes for comics like Pauly Shore's dad and stuff. He was like in the Bay Area doing radio.
Yeah.
And so that growing up, he had a government job, but he kind of always supported me using humor and doing art.
Right.
To whatever extent I wanted to. So a lot of comics, you hear they their parents, it's the opposite.
Where they're like, no, you have to be a doctor.
Yeah, which sort of, I almost feel like that lights a fire under their ass to prove their parents wrong, and then they achieve. And I had always had my dad's support, so I just kind of sleep until noon, because he already believes in me.
I was kind of like that too. I mean, because I was an only child, and my parents were like, well, I guess whatever you want to do, we don't have anybody to compare you to, so just do you.
Yeah, which is great. A lot. I mean, it sounds like a crazy thing to complain about, but it also, I see other people that have their you should be a lawyer like me. And then they become John Mulaney or something. I'm assuming his dad's a lawyer.
Yeah. They're like, I felt the obligation for a long time to be something better than a comic. Like I went to school for pre-med and I was like, yeah, this is what I should do. I can remember numbers.
Yeah.
And then after like 2 years of that, I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
And so like, I'm very unconventional in that way where I'm like, I don't always agree that kids should stay in school. Like maybe it's not the right thing for you. Maybe you shouldn't leave 4 years with $50,000 in debt if that's not your jam.
I think about that a lot. Yeah, if I had started stand-up right after high school, because I know I wanted to do it in college, but it didn't seem like a thing you could do. There's certainly, I think they just are now getting their first open mics in Missoula, Montana. I think about it sometimes, but also as far as being a communicator with people and becoming confident with, out of high school, I didn't think I was very capable mentally. And then in college, you have to be because there's money on the line. And so that's what you get.
Well, and
that helps stand up, Yeah.
And it's a new experience. Like I remember thinking I was going to go to college and just like, just come out like this fucking doctor, like really smart, but I always had the bug to perform, and college kind of stuck it to me in the fact that like it was a whole nother, like you couldn't skate by like you could in high school.
Yeah.
And I partied so hard in college and still managed to do decent. And then I was like, well, life isn't really that hard if I can still drink this much beer and like still get like A minuses.
Yeah.
And then I just wasn't very excited by college anymore. I just didn't think it was as challenging as it should have been.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just like, I'm leaving.
Yeah, I just did everything. I went to like a advisor person and said, what exactly do I need to take to graduate? And he made a list and I took those classes. I never chose any classes based on my own interests, except my major, which was art. But everything else, and I just graduated and got out. But
and then you just feel super basic afterwards. And you're like, okay, well, I did that.
No, I immediately moved to somewhere and started doing stand-up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you feel like you knew at a young age? Did you have any like things that happened when you were younger that kind of made you think you'd go down this?
Not you remember that moment when you're 9 or 10 or whatever, preteen, where you make adults laugh and you're like, oh, this is a way to get
attention
and to influence and be like healthy stuff.
For sure.
Like everyone's listening to me right now and they're all and I'm making up a joke and they're all watching me do this. I'm like, oh, this will be great. I used to give little puppet shows. I don't know, vague memories.
I feel like we would have been friends as kids if we would have known each other.
I just wanted to draw and be funny always. And I had a mom and a dad that were like,
do that.
They were funny too, know. And so and I have a funny sister and everyone supportive, good family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you party a lot in high school, or what was high school, Chris, like?
Yeah, I mean, anyone where it's winter, that's why I was thinking about when I was up in the Midwest in your frozen stomping grounds. It's like, I just want to go indoors. And what do you do if you're indoors looking out a snowy window? You drink a 40 of Old English.
Yes, or Mad Dog 2020, if anyone's from the Midwest.
I was always Mad Dogging it.
Yep.
Crooked Eye Juice. What was that? St. Ides. There's a lot of stuff with sugar in it.
Boone's Farm.
Oh, God. It's all... My mouth is watering, but not in a I'm hungry way.
Malibu. I know. Like, with the things that we would request in high school, like an older kid would be like, what do you want for the weekend? You'd give them like $20 because to you that was a fortune.
Yeah.
And you'd be like listing 5 things.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, I can get 1, maybe.
Yeah. God. It was the worst. But at least... I was like snowboarding in the winter. That was important to me. And skateboarding, like those things kept me from just being a total
fuck
lush.
off.
Yeah. But yes, I partied a lot. And especially after high school, not so much in high school. I think I was scared to even drink that much until halfway through. Then I tried it. But I was sort of a late party bloomer, which is bad because then as an adult, you're like, woo, I'm still in my 20s. No, I'm 40.
And that's what I say to people. I'm like, if you start drinking at 15 like I did, and you play your first game of strip poker at 15 like I did, then by the time you're in your mid-30s, nothing shocks you.
Right.
And you're capable of drinking.
It's weird, yeah. Either that or your teeth are missing and you're shaking in some weird halfway house. I don't know.
True, yeah. It could go two different paths for sure.
Yeah, but I have seen, I do see people, you know, everyone with their shit together. It seems like their story was when they were 15, it's on the old crank pipe.
That was the way of life in the center of the country. There's just like coasties. I'm not really sure how coasties grew up. Like
just surfing and just doing sit-ups and eating kale.
Quinoa.
God.
But in the middle of the United States, where it's just all flatlanders like you in Montana and me in Wisconsin, it was like you had to, and we didn't have cell phones yet growing up. So you'd be like, all right, we're going to meet at this park at 3:00. You bring a backpack of beer. You bring some weed. It was always really shitty weed, but it was the best kind of smoke because you only got high for like 15 minutes.
Sure.
And you'd ride like bicycles around and drink beer in people's yards. Like that's what we did. And it was awesome.
Yeah, it's. I wonder. Yeah, I maybe wouldn't have even because I was born in Monterey here, but then we left when I was like a tiny person because my parents wanted me.
He used to be a little person. He got a surgery.
You looked up at there is a camera. You are looking at someone. I used to be. No offense, but I was.
He got a special surgery, and
I was in the movie Time Bandits. It's got a little people in it. But yeah, I wonder. But it's funny to think. I'd like to see a snapshot an age digression photo or whatever of me if I had grown up by the ocean. Anyway.
Yeah.
But even in my party group, like my peer group, because of skateboarding was older. I guess that would be another role model person who now isn't at all. There's like older skater friends that maybe I shouldn't have even been hanging around with, but they kind of looked after me, and my mom knew that she trusted them. And they're just these guys that they were just badass punk rock skater guys, but they had their lives together, and now they don't. It's weird.
Isn't it weird how that happens?
It's perspective, maybe, but yeah, one of the guys, one of my good friends, is now just a full-on kind of racist biker guy up in the middle of California. I'm like, it's like a Trump guy, and I had to get rid of him on social media.
Because he was just like always spouting off on something.
Yeah, and he was just cool as shit when I was young. It's weird when that happens.
Yeah.
And I think people change, but then also your perspective changed.
Well, I've seen a lot of that happen too, where you have like role model reversal. Because like people think that certain people have their lives together when they're young. And I had that too. I had like some... There's this guy, people in my high school would absolutely know who I'm talking about. I don't even need to say the name, but there was this guy that I thought was so hot when I was younger, and I definitely looked up to him, and I was like, I want a boyfriend like that guy. And now he's like a former bodybuilder who's orange.
Sure, yeah.
And like does weird, like, I don't know, his life is very strange now. And I look back at people that are still stuck in the mid. He's orange like the president.
Yeah, of course.
But you look back at people that are just still stuck in the Midwest. You thought they were so cool, and then now you've moved on, and you're like, oh, you're still the same. You just never did anything else,
right? But a lot of my friends, I go back, and I think it's cool that it just depends on the person. But I have friends that are doing great back at home, and there's a part of me that's like, man, what if I stayed here and I was doing just doing illustration for a living, and I know that would have gone okay, but then I always would be wondering about this career. Like,
right,
that's what I always, when I think about stopping, I'm like, yeah, but I know that my dad, all of his stories were about being in the radio business and everything, and there was a part of him that wished that he had continued, but then he had these damn kids. That'd be me.
Yeah,
and so.
It was just you and your sister, right?
Yeah. She's older, though. She's like 6 years older.
Yeah.
She helped me with my Paul Ryan stuff. She wrote some very good, like one of the letters she wrote I was reading, because there was just this part where I'm like, oh, I'm reading what he thought would be fan mail or letters from Americans, but they're total hate mail. So making Paul Ryan read this hate mail out loud while kind of defending himself in between each paragraph. But she's such a good writer that I was like tearing up. It was like, I'll show it to you later. But yeah, my sister is a very good writer.
I want to be able to see some of this Paul Ryan. I mean, will you?
I'm going to do it in May, on May 8th at the Dynasty Typewriter, that Jamie Flam's new theater.
Oh, sweet.
And Randy Bryce is coming. It's going to be a fundraiser for his campaign. We met with him in Racine near Janesville. I went to Janesville too, and
that's where my
people
parents
were
live.
Driving and slowing down because I really do look like the guy when I have the Widow's Peak and the suit on with a little flag pin. The lady was like, "Are you look like Paul Ryan?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now." But anyway, and the other candidate for his seat, Kathy Myers, is this teacher that's running. They're both running. I told her one of them should run Republican. I don't know. There's two Democrats now vying for his seat, but she was so awesome, and she came in Chicago. She drove to Chicago. She drove like an hour and a half just to be in the audience and ask questions.
That's badass.
Yeah, she's. I mean, if. Now that I've been in politics for about a month, it's just so weird, like actually dealing with real candidates. But she is so that she was awesome. I really liked her. Yeah.
Would you ever actually run for office now, being a comic? Like you see, like I watched this movie. Marlon Wayans executive produced this film that I saw like probably 2 years ago. It was called Something About Mickey. I don't remember the exact title, but it was about the pop star in Haiti that ran for president of Haiti, and he won.
Wow.
And it was this whole thing that happened.
It a documentary?
It's a documentary, okay. And it's like Wyclef Jean, like when they were both running for the president of Haiti.
Oh, wow.
And it was just literally like it was like a popularity contest. And this pop star that won used to like dance in his underwear. Like he was like the bad boy of like pop.
Oh, wow.
And then he wins presidency and like it was this whole thing. And then he did nothing because he didn't know how to run a country.
Right, of course.
And then like it just fizzled into like not being cool anymore.
Yeah,
but
that sounds familiar.
I feel like that's happening more and more. And I mean, obviously with our president now, but like I have people from the Midwest that'll hit me up randomly. People from the Midwest, by the way, think that when you live in LA and you work in entertainment, you're best friends with like George Clooney and stuff.
Yeah.
Because they'll be like, tell your celebrity friends to stop getting involved in politics. And I'm like, who do you think I'm friends with?
Yeah.
Do you think I can just call Brad Pitt up and be like, dude, chill out on your
you're getting too vocal about some of this stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, do you think now, like, say, if you had the option to run for like local government, just because?
No, it was exciting and fun to do this, but the only thing I gleaned from it is that it makes sense now that comics write speeches for politicians,
right?
Because putting jokes in some sort of It's a style of writing I've never done, like this, like inspirational, reassuring, saying these blanket statements about American values and all that, and then having a joke in there was basically the challenge for this whole thing. And I'm like, oh, maybe that would be fun to write jokes for speech or be a speech writer. Right. You do hear about comics doing that.
Well, and people do that for like rich people too. I have a friend who did that for a while where he was like flying around on some CEO's private jet places and he was just writing his speeches. Yeah. And he was like, I don't really want this job anymore. I was like, I will do it.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it would. But no, I think even if you're a great person like the two I met, the Congress is this rich person's club and you have to do things for your party all the time. And if you're good at it, you compromise all the time just to win. And it's that same as being a lawyer. Anything like that where it's like, not that I'm some moral high horse person, but it would eat at me to do. I know that I met this Kathy Myers woman. I'm like, oh man, you're going to become hardened by this, and she's such a sweet teacher right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On one hand, she'll probably be great for education and things that someone like Paul Ryan would damage. But I was like, but you're gonna have to, be a politician. Politicians have to do terrible things all the time. And then act like I would hate a job like that.
I think that's why I like being in comedy so much is like we don't have to do anything that we don't want to do.
Right.
And we can openly, like for me, that was because I started writing little blurbs about how I was fucking up all the time when I was 14.
Yeah.
And that ended up being like these series of books.
Oh, cool.
Or a series of like little notebooks that I have of like why I didn't think I would ever live up to being a role model. And that's what got me thinking at a young age of what that actually is. And like, I've realized being 33 now that like, I don't really think that they are a thing, you know? I mean, I think everything kind of changes, but that's what I always loved about comedy is it's like, I can unabashedly suck and just be like, hey, I'm a cunt.
Yeah.
And then like, it's okay because I called myself out on it, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And then to me, that makes it fine.
Yeah. And there's another show that you have in a couple nights that will go great. You just got to keep, Yeah. I tend to beat myself up when a show doesn't go well, but I'm getting better at it. But yeah, you're right. It doesn't matter. And we can do it. You can just do what it's so funny to just work at night and be able to drink while doing it. I think that's why people get excited about stand-up when you meet them. Like on an airplane, I just say I do graphic design. I broke my hand drawing.
Really intense scribbling.
Yeah. No, for the Paul Ryan stuff, I had to come up with reasons, and I just said I broke my hand feverishly writing zero gun reform. But it didn't, there was a few of them in there. I kept changing the reason every show.
That's awesome.
Shaking hands.
You should just do a mashup video of all your reasons for why your hand is broken. Like like one compilation video.
I think I could. We've shot a couple of the shows. On
airplanes, I used to always lie and tell, because I hate, for anybody out there, comedians don't like telling people on flights that they're comics because you're expected to be funny the whole flight.
Right.
And it's too much pressure. And sometimes you need to sleep or like listen to music or something.
Tell me a joke. It's the worst thing you can ever say. It's inevitable. Mm-hmm. So I just say, you know what? I'm the county assessor for the Department of Sewage.
I've made up so many things. I said once that I was like a juice bar owner and they asked me no questions.
Yeah.
I once said that I was a veterinarian and the person asked me a lot of questions. I just made up a lot of answers. So somebody is doing something really wrong to their dog right now.
Yeah, well, for that also you need to drain the anal glands. You just stick your finger up there.
Just always up the butt with 2 fingers.
Really?
1.5, really.
For an eye infection? Yep. You guys get your fingers up there, squeeze those glands. You'll love it. You'll love it too. I got to get off this plane.
It works on grandpa as well.
Yeah, do it on your grandpa. Okay, bye now. Have a good flight.
It's always in the glands.
Yeah. Drain your grandpa's glands.
And that's also where the G-spot is. Everything's in the...
I'm learning so much from you.
I've just laughed to myself getting off planes sometimes because I'm like, this poor person has no idea. But I'll tell people, like, if I haven't spoken to them the whole flight and then you're already landing, then I'll tell them. They'll be like, oh, what are you here for?
Yeah.
I'll be like, I'm doing comedy. Okay, bye. You know, it's like the perfect out.
And with these things, I was surprised because it's just a new version of what I usually have to talk about. People, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing town halls as Paul Ryan. And then they're like, oh, whoa. You know, there's no follow up to that. Unless it's some politics buff, then I'm like, oh boy. I was worried about that people would show up to the show.
Did you wear your widow's peak on the flights and fly?
It was just pencil or whatever.
Yeah.
Like a black.
No, that would have been funny if you walked into the plane and you were like, Coach, again?
Yeah,
Coach?
yeah. Where's my campaign manager?
What's up with this? Just like throwing a hissy fit.
Yeah.
You should do that on some flight and have somebody like secretly planted to film you, and you could be like, you just put that out like Paul Ryan loses his shit after.
I am going to do a video where he is flying my manager's husband's a pilot. He flies little planes, and we're going to go to Palm Springs. I'm just going to pretend that he's looking to retire there, but it can make it look like I'm flying because there's a steering wheel on the other side.
Oh yeah, the co-pilot seat.
Probably not call it a steering wheel, but anyway, I'm gonna be flying Paul Ryan. I think it'd be funny if he's just flying a plane, just for a comedy video. The old shifting and steering with the wheel, planes.
Yeah, he's just like but obviously not really pushing any buttons, but pretending to.
Yeah.
Do you watch that new show, LA to Vegas, at all?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. It's really good. Because I have friends that have worked. There's two professions that I've learned too much about in my adult life that made me glad I didn't go down either of these routes. One is being a doctor, because I have a friend that worked as an ER nurse. And she was like, you forget that this is people's job, that they just start to fuck off after a while. And like, they're in the middle of surgery and they're like chucking water bottles at each other and stuff.
Wow.
Like, you hear the story she was telling. She's like, yeah, there was just a uterus sitting on this woman's lap and the doctors are like chucking shit at each other.
Oh no.
She was like, the stuff that I was seeing was like insane. I'm not saying that every doctor does that, but like it's somebody's job. So like, you know, any job that you like have your bros and you're like, you joke with people, and to them it's just like daily routine stuff.
Oh, that scares me.
I know.
When I got my hip done, it's almost been a year now, but yeah, I could tell that my doctor was super serious, and everyone that worked on me, there's like 7 people in there. And I watched it on YouTube first. Like,
you watched the surgery first?
Yeah,
oh my God.
Leg off and then there's all this pounding.
They cut it off and reattach it?
I mean, to get access to my femur, they put this like helmet on it. I still have my original equipment, but they put this like metal helmet on the top of your femur. So to get at it, I think when they replaced your femur, they cut it from the side, but I couldn't believe how far off they took this leg and then put the metal on it, and they're pounding and drilling and they got to shave all the cartilage. I know.
We want to like barf.
No, it was horrifying. But then I got wheeled in there. I'm like, hey guys, I've met. You're the guy that pulls my leg off, and you're the guy that. But they all were so serious, and they like each one of them came up and said, "Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna do this. He's really good at this. We're gonna here's the guy who talks about putting the medicine in your spine." I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So they were so serious at Cedars that I was like,
well, it makes me wonder, like,
reassured.
I mean, I feel like if I was going to have a doctor because in most cases in life, I want to have somebody I'm working with that has a sense of humor, probably except for my doctor.
Right.
Like, I don't want my doctor to be like, waka waka.
My guy he was cocky. He was kind of full of himself. It's everything you want with a surgeon. He's I'm the best at this. I have patented these tools. This is my surgery.
Perfect.
You will skateboard again and you will surf. And he was kind of a surfer guy, and he did actually, to find him, I was like, I thought that there'd be someone out there that just reshaped your bone and dipped it in Teflon or something. So I looked up sculptor, hip surgeon, and he's like a marble sculptor. He goes like to.
So he actually does sculpt things.
Yeah. He goes like to Italy to just get the same lighting as the masters did. And I'm like, it's really eye-rolling stuff, but he's like so serious about this stuff. And he has some ESPN like podcast about hip stuff.
What a specific podcast.
Yeah. No, I know. I think it's about, I don't know. I haven't listened to it yet, but everyone he came highly recommended. But yeah, I don't think he messes around at all. I wasn't going to find a Junior Mint in there or whatever. Seinfeld reference. But remember that, they're watching surgery and he spilled candy all
That's
over
what always like, that was my most thankful moment in college. Cause I when I was in pre-med, I thought I wanted to go into, oh my God, what is it specifically? Like sports medicine, essentially.
Sure,
like I wanted to fix like athletes' legs after they got injuries and stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the best things they did is beginning of my second year. I'm not thinking of that
word either. It's driving me nuts.
You know what it is, right?
I'm about to go to another one because I'll have to.
This is why I didn't become a doctor. I can't even remember the fucking word.
Orthopedic surgeon.
Yeah, something like that. Orthopedics.
Yeah.
But they showed us a video of like breakages from it was everything from football to skiing to like all sorts of stuff, and like knees coming out of the legs. And after seeing that, I was like, okay, I don't belong in this profession.
Right.
And it was the best thing they could have done. Like what somebody should do, whether you're going to take on a new sport or a new job, they should show you a video of the worst possible scenario and be like, if you really want to do this, this is how bad it could get.
I wonder if you would make yourself get used to that.
Yeah.
You just have to get, it was fine. I remember in 8th grade, there's my science teacher, I don't even know if kids do this anymore. It's not likely, where you do a lab and you had to cut apart animals, and dissect them. And his son was in the class, and he probably wanted his son to get into biology. But as soon as he saw one of these, he would literally faint. Like if he saw blood, we had to give blood once. He saw blood, he fainted. I'm like, Mr. McMaster's son fainted.
The story, I have a doctor that I go to, and I had to get some shots before I went to the Caribbean a couple weeks ago. And they were like, how do you handle blood? How do you handle needles? And I was like, I handle both fine.
Which you get used to it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And they were like, you'd be surprised how many adults can't handle this stuff. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing better than most, but I still can't handle the idea of bones breaking. It's such a horrible, but I also still say this, and I will stand by this to this day. If somebody were to come up to me and give me the option to have one bionic arm, I would 100% do it.
I kind of have a bionic leg.
Yeah, I think that's what I was thinking when you were saying that. Because I would love to have just one really strong arm that I could just climb a building with, and then just everything else is just human.
Yeah. I think that I've always wanted a big arm and a little arm. Just be, then for different jobs, do you need some finesse or some light? I'll use my left arm, but do you need me to beat up these 3 thugs? Let me pull out my big right arm.
Somebody was telling me about something like that. That was on either some movie or something recently. Somebody was telling me about a guy that just lifts only one half of his body and then the other half. And I think it was something in a movie. I wish I could remember what it was from. I get too much information on a given day.
It's not a real guy.
I don't think it's a real guy, but it made me laugh so hard at how much work that would actually take to just build muscle on half your body.
My goal is to be the most asymmetrical man. No, big leg on this side, a big leg, on the other side, the big arm. Just a weird,
balance it out in a weird way.
Oh, God. That guy's crazy. I'm glad he doesn't exist.
You just have to remove one testicle just so you always feel slightly off balance.
Yeah, but you want to do it the natural way, so you
tan just one half of your body.
The Tour de France until this bike seat gives you testicular cancer, and then they finally I'm going to lose mine. Then the insurance covers it. If you just cosmetically want to remove a testicle, it's so expensive. But
one of my best friends, he was one of the directors of Second City for ever. And when I was 22 and first was starting to hang out with him as a buddy, I was telling him how I was going to get a Chihuahua and give it breast implants because both things are so ridiculous that I thought it would just be funny to have this tiny dog with boobs.
Yeah, and 8 of them, I think.
Yeah, and he was like, well, when I'm 75, I'm going to get just 2 really large fake testicles implanted. And I thought it was the funniest thing. He was like, yeah, I just want to be the guy with such big testicles that I have to be wheeled around in a wheelchair because I can't actually walk anymore.
Yeah, but they're just big nudicles.
Yeah, just big fake ones. And I was like, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard. And now whenever I think of really old men in wheelchairs, I just think of giant testicles.
Well, because every once in a while, they will have them. Some old guy doing the blues on the guitar. It's like, why does that guy have giant gourds for a ball? It's just not going to be useful.
There's a term for that as well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The giant testicle syndrome of old age.
I think it's
your ears grow, your nose grows.
Of the testicles. I think, yeah.
Testicle-titis?
Yeah, testiculitis.
Okay, so in closing,
yes, conclusionary statements.
What would you say you would see yourself doing in 5 years if you see yourself doing anything differently?
I don't know. Hopefully just this. I mean, ideally, I'm doing the same thing.
But a better version. Now,
but with a different income bracket. Isn't that dumb? But that's
what I say too. I mean, people ask me my 5-year plan.
Because I am doing it. People are like, I hope you make it. It's like, no, it's happening right now. I just kind of wish.
It's just a slow process. People, and when everybody thinks that something happens overnight, there's 15 years that went into that beforehand. So totally. It's not, you know, for me, I've been in the comedy world for 11 years. You've been for like nearly 2 decades. It's just like, you know, it's just a fucking process.
Yeah.
And so whenever people ask me my 5-year plan, I'm like, okay, I hope I'm still alive.
Yeah. Staying alive.
Number one, staying alive.
That's one thing at a time here.
Yeah. I hope I have like some sort of thing that is of value, like maybe a home or even like a, you know, a boat.
Sure. A boat that you live on as a home.
Yeah, I would do that. Part of me wants to be like a pirate in another life. So
I think I want to do more acting stuff. I think that's like a series. Like I'm like, oh, I should have been focusing, not just doing it as a side gig for commercials and stuff. I'm like, maybe I should focus more on that.
Well,
but never stop doing stand-up. I'll always do it. There's people that their goal from stand-up is something other than stand-up, like a writing job or acting or something. I'm like, I don't know that I ever want to be in a position where I don't have time to do stand-up.
Right.
Because I've had writing jobs and it's like, not tonight. I'm not. And I got bummed out. I'm like, I need it.
Yeah, when you don't have this time for stand-up.
In an unhealthy way, I need it.
Well, and I always say for me, and like, I think a lot of people work this way too, like comedy is just my lane. So I'm like, I do stand-up and, you know, I do all the other stuff in comedy too, but I'm not going to not do stand-up.
Right.
I'll be 90 and still wanting to do stand-up.
It's okay to want to do everything. It's funny when you move here, you meet with agents or I did, and it was like, what do you specifically want to do? I'm like, I'll do whatever, but that's not what the answer they want to hear. But as I've done this, I'm like, no, I've done all kinds of hosting stuff, voiceover stuff. It's all fun and all stemming from stand-up. So.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say no to any of it.
Amen to that.
Amen.
Okay, Chris, where can we see you coming up? Well, first of all, what's your social media so people can find you?
My social security number is 51. Media. I'm at Chris_Fairbanks on Instagram, and then I'm just Chris Fairbanks on Twitter.
And I will tag you in this episode when it comes out on Tuesday.
Okay, cool.
Next week, Chris is going to be on my new live show in downtown Los Angeles.
Yeah, that'll be great.
On the 26th of April.
Yes.
At Boomtown Brewery. It's called In the Living Room With. It'll be Chris and Jeremiah Watkins and Jessa Reed and Justine Marino.
Oh,
so you can come see him there.
What's she doing here?
She just moved here.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
She's great.
She's amazing. So I thought it'd be fun to have you guys on because it was our Big Sky comedy. We go way back.
Yeah. She had a really good This Isn't Happening
Yeah,
story.
This Is Not Happening was really funny. She's just funny because she's a former meth head and really open about it. And a lot of people don't have a story like that. So it's like, because most people like either die or still do meth.
And she doesn't seem methy.
No.
To me. She just seems like a nice.
She's just cool.
Yeah,
you know,
she
great. Just came out of it.
Yeah. You would think someone that came out of that, they wouldn't be, I don't know. You would think they wouldn't be a happy, charismatic person. That's how the meth thing happened.
Yeah.
They're like, well, I got to get happy some way.
Yeah.
But maybe she got happy. I don't know.
I think she became enlightened and then just moved on from it.
I'm always impressed with these happy people that I see.
I know, right?
No,
What's
I'm
up with
fine.
that? I'm happy too.
I'm doing fine. It's not a good conclusionary statement.
I'm doing fine. And scene. But we have you at May 8th. You're doing another Paul Ryan session here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, at the Dynasty Typewriter, formerly the Hayworth.
And anything else fun that you want to plug? Any your podcasts, all that stuff?
Yeah. Do You Need a Ride? With Karen Kilgariff, who is a podcast famous person now. Her murder My Favorite Murder has.
Oh yeah, My Favorite Murder is amazing.
They just do these giant tours. I mean, they sold out the Orpheum doing.
Oh dang!
Yeah, and so it's like all these people that listened to all their episodes now are listening to Do You Need a Ride? And it's crazy because they all came to shows. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This is a thing. I should learn how to monetize. I haven't. But anyway, it's
when
fun.
you're done being Paul Ryan, you'll find a way to monetize it. You know?
Right. Yeah,
let his spirit embody you.
Yes. I got to find, maybe I could find out a way to get money from poor people.
Yeah, they generally have the most to give. That is our conclusion. Follow Chris Fairbanks, and thank you for tuning in.